When was the last time you guys stole a house? Nobody? I even called the cops on myself last time, just for fun. Since you guys, none of you guys have done it, do you guys want to run through the experience a little bit? Yeah? All right, just close your eyes, just for a moment. Right, you've got your phone in your hand, and you've just talked to the police. You've talked to them because you've told them what you have done. What you have done is you and two of your mates have climbed up onto the 4th-story roof of a building you've spied. It's empty. You've crept along to a window that you thought might be easy to push in. Premeditated. It is. So you sneak in. And you creep slowly down the 4 stairs to the front door in the darkness, and you open the door from the inside. You've brought a drill and a spare lock. You take the old lock off, you put the new one on, and voila! You've got the keys to your very first home. Congratulations, open your eyes, guys. Look around, it's amazing. I reckon this is a pretty good go for a first steal. Nice. Now I am that police person coming to your door. I knock, you let me in, I look you all in the eye. I take down all of your names, I'll be needing them later. And I say to you, welcome to the neighborhood. Tēnā koutou, ko hui mai nei tēnei wā, ka tiki karere ki te mihi ki ngā mana whenua o te rohi nei, kia Taranaki whānui, me Ngāti Toa, me Tiati Awa, a tēnā koutou. It is right for me to acknowledge the original people of this land that we stand on here today. Taranaki whānui, Ngāti Toa, and Tiati Awa. No whangarei ahau, no England o ki te puna, ko parihaka te maunga, ko hate te awa, ko pihi awari te mārai, ko ash ahau. Now, stealing a house was a pretty big moment in my life, and it led me down a path of a lot of what I do in the world. I make safe places for dangerous things. Now, I was able to break into a house and steal it and live in it, squat a place, because I was living in the Netherlands at the time. And in the last half of the 20th century, there were a range of housing crises across Europe. And people fought for their right to a house, fought for their right to for a place to be. They fought the police. They fought eviction. And the Dutch government's response to this wasn't to crack down harder or to subsidize landlords. It was to make squatting legal. If a building was empty for more than a year, you could break in, tidy up your break-in, change the lock, and as long as you had the key, you could use it. Cool, eh? And it wasn't just houses. It was old offices, factories, warehouses, schools that were unused, unused churches. There was a big tropical playground right in the center of Rotterdam. Swimming pool, and it had like big slides and palm trees, and it had fallen into disrepair, but a bunch of other people had moved in and rejuvenated it. So it wasn't just people who wanted a place or needed a place to live, it was small businesses. It was lots of designers and makers and people who wanted to start community groups. Basically anyone who needed space to do anything for themselves or their community could get it. Your ability to use space wasn't based on owning it. It was based on your ability to use space. Squatting is illegal now in the Netherlands. The law changed in 2010. And since then, house prices have doubled, and homelessness has basically doubled in that country. The whole world finds itself in a housing crisis right now. And I'd take it one further. I think the world is in a property crisis. There's going to be 3 billion squatters in the world by 2050. That's the equivalent of 125 of us here today. I think this is a really big indication that our laws and our conceptions of private property are completely broken. And we need some new ones. We need some that are based on sharing. Indigenous societies throughout the world have far more advanced and nuanced ways of thinking about land, being on the land, being with the land, and being from the land than we do through simple private ownership. Māori, here in Aotearoa, know that you cannot own your own little slice of the Earth Mother. It's just really silly. And it's not lost on me that it was the ridiculous kind of irony that me, a skinny white boy from Whangarei, a small town in the north of New Zealand, had to travel 18,000 kilometres across the other side of the world to find out about sharing space, when it was right under my nose the whole time. My ancestors knew about sharing land, and I think all of ours did. In England, where mine are from, between the 17th and 20th centuries, 3 million hectares of land was stolen, taken from collective ownership and collective and common use into private ownership by just a few individuals, and basically a whole population displaced. Here in Aotearoa, Māori lost 92% of the land that they were living with in 80 years. Land is power. And taking people's access away to land has been used as a tool of disempowerment for centuries. The laws that we use around land were specifically invented to take land away from people. And I think we can do better than that. And in fact, I know we can do better than that. I've been lucky enough to be running some experiments that have shown me how beautiful the world can be when land and space is used as a tool of empowerment. Experiment number 1, wood community space in Whangarei. I came home from Europe and found that a small part of a building that my dad owned was empty. So I guess I felt morally obliged to squat it, of course, in a kind of landlord's son kind of way. He let me use it, it was good. And we moved in and we opened it up to the community. We started up a community bike workshop, a food collective moved in, we had lots of theatre there, waste reduction community organisations used the space, and a food rescue organisation used it. About 20 different community groups used it in the 6 years that we were looking after it. That food rescue organisation now has the whole space. And last year, we distributed nearly 700,000 rescued meals to hungry people in Tautokoro from that once empty warehouse. That is the power of space. Experiment number 2, also in Whangarei, it's called 116. I'm part of a theatre company, and in 2014, we needed a space to rehearse, just for 2 weeks. Happened to be that the council owned an unused church in the middle of town. They let us use it in 2 weeks, in November 2014. We still haven't given it back. Our really dangerous idea was to take something that the community owned and let them use it. Really scary to quite a few people on council at the time, but we talked them through it. And they let us use it, and we shared it with the community. As soon as we opened it up, so many people came forward with things that they'd been dreaming of doing for each other. There was movement therapy for vulnerable children, a huge community choir popped up, a community radio station moved in, and theatre and storytelling works that had never normally come to Whangarei started coming to town. An amazing group of friends still run that space up in Whangarei. The town only has 60,000 people, and last year there was 20,000 visits to the space and 8 world premieres. That's the power of safe space. That's the power of spaces that enable people to feel safe to try things together. Experiment number 3. Experiment number 3 starts with one of the hardest times in my life. In 2017, my dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and by 2021, it had taken his life. In 10 short years, I'd gone from squatter to landlord and lost my dad. And my parents were really generous landlords. They would often go around the tenants at the end of the year and give everyone a month's free rent for Christmas. They helped out lots of charities, and they really cared for the people in their buildings. And I'm going to talk about what's happened since my dad passed, tell you a story. And as much as I think it honours his legacy and the generosity of my parents, I would swap it all to have him back around. And I'd like to also say that I no means think I'm perfect. I haven't given any land back yet. I live with lots of the comfort of being a landlord and the safety of that. Sometimes I feel like I'm doing a cool job of trying some things differently, and other times I just feel like I'm thrashing around making things worse. But I do have a story of something that we're trying. Experiment number 3. It's 257, right here in Wellington. This time, we didn't have to borrow or steal a space. We could buy one. We bought one floor of an office building. It had 27 rooms in it, all horrendous colors and a really low suspended ceiling. So we took everything out. But we took it out really carefully because we wanted to reuse it. We turned all the timber from the old walls and all the doors into our new desks. We took the carpet tiles, we washed them, and where we needed them, we put them back down again. We carefully took all the wiring out of the walls and the ceiling, and we tested it. It was good, so we reused it right there on site. It was the first time that it happened in electricians' careers or lives, and they loved it because they're normally the ones putting the stuff in the bin. We were also able to share lots of stuff with the community. One amazing person turned up in their tiny car and filled it so full of carpet tiles that the wheels and the guards rubbed as they drove off, but they were grinning ear to ear. Someone else turned up, and as I was helping put glass that were old partitions between offices into his van, I asked them, "What are you going to use it for?" He said, "Well, this is really great. This glass is actually really hard to get hold of. I make fish tanks." Anywhere else in New Zealand, and basically the developed world, that glass just would have been smashed up and put in the skip bin to go to landfill. This is important because the world is doing a lot of building right now. It's predicted we're going to double our entire building stock by 2060. It's the equivalent of building a new New York City every 34 days for 40 years straight. Wild, eh? At the same time, our buildings contribute 42% of all of our carbon emissions. And we're planning on doubling the size of them in the next 36 years. Clearly, we need sustainable building and reusing materials and new ways of doing things. But I think we need to do so much more than that by doing so much less. If we were to build the world's most sustainable building, solar panels, all the reuse, all the new sustainable bells and whistles, and one person used it once, it would be suddenly incredibly unsustainable, right? 257 is a shared office space. It's also a bar, an events venue, a yoga studio, a gig space, a conference center, a meditation space, a well-being gym, and even for a while, it was a donut bakery. That really helped to fill up the dead area between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. in the morning. We've been open for 3 years. We've provided space to almost 600 organizations and companies, and we're closing in on 1,000 events and Hui meetings. Our numbers show us that we're on track to being used twice as much as most of the buildings around us in the CBD of Wellington. Imagine if we could double the size of our cities without building anything, just by sharing. Imagine how good we would have to get at sharing in order to do that, at being next to each other, at being together. And imagine how safe that would make us. Exclusion has never and will never create safety. But sharing does. Being next to one another does. Being together does. Caring for the person next to us, no matter who they are, does. The 257's a really safe and accessible space because we care about all of the people who don't have safe spaces elsewhere. We cater for the excluded. And we're also working on creating a system of property sharing. For every hour that someone is in the space, our community of people who can pay enable us to give away $1 of free or discounted space to organisations who couldn't otherwise afford a place to be and do their critical work. For instance, here today, we're told there's basically 500 people here today, including the volunteers, the speakers, and all of you guys. We're here for roughly 8 hours. That's about 4,000 hours collectively. So if this was at 257, we would be giving away 4,000 hours of space. In our 3 years, we've had people in our space for 226,000 hours. So we've given away 226,000 hours of space to lots of groups who otherwise wouldn't have a place to work, to be, and to play, be together. I think that's really cool. And it's also just a drop or a speck of mist in the huge property ocean. But I think it's setting a really amazing example for how things could be. If all of the landlords in New Zealand who are renting out houses right now were operating on the same system, it'd be $9.6 billion worth of discounted or free rent a year. What housing crisis? What property crisis? Everyone who is involved with 257 and books, hires, moves in, or just comes to an event there as part of that vision. A vision for safe places for dangerous things. All good, mate. Yeah, and now you're all wondering about the dangerous things, right? Well, if you think about all of the people in the world who are doing the hard work, the critical work for making our planet sustainable and socially just, all the people who are working hard just to even survive, our carers, our activists, our growers, our makers, our advocates, the people who are homeless, the people who are hungry, the people who are displaced and oppressed. All of these people are the people doing the dangerous work. For many of these people, just being is dangerous. These are the people that need the safe spaces. Because what I've found is that when people are in safe spaces and when they are free from danger, they get to become the dangerous ones. They get to become dangerous to oppression, dangerous to violence, dangerous to colonization, dangerous to environmental crime, and dangerous to landlords. Yeah, even us. And I think that that's okay. Because I truly believe that a shared world would be better for us too. I've seen how beautiful it can be when property and space is used as a tool of empowerment. It enables people to take a world they believe in and turn it into one they can call their own, that we can call our own. So share the spaces you have. Definitely share the spaces you don't have. Share any spaces that you have any access to at all. Steal spaces, borrow spaces, make spaces, give spaces away. Make spaces so safe that it's possible for us to go out and do all of the dangerous things we know we need to do to make that world, the world safe for everybody. Practice sharing. Practice being next to one another. And practice being together. Because I think if we can do that, then that safe world that we dream of, that world that's safe for everybody, is entirely possible. been really nice stealing a house with you guys tonight. I'm really keen to do heaps more of it, so just give me a call. There's heaps of people we can share them with. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, a tēnā koutou, a tēnā koutou katoa.